And Mr. Mkize?
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning to you, Chairperson, fellow members, members and staff of SNERSA, as well as the members of the public following us through the various live streaming platforms. Thank you.
And Madam Semani?
Morning, Chair, and morning to the committee members as well as our NERSA staff and the members of the public. My name is Tembeka Semani. I am a part-time regulator member and a member of this committee. Thanks.
And Mr. Sibanda?
Morning, Chair, colleagues, members of the public. I'm Fungai Sibanda, a part-time regulator member. Thank you.
Well, at this stage, thank you, Mr. Sibanda, and thank you, members. At this stage, then I'm going to ask the members to vote on whether they are adopting the agenda. By show of hands, members, if you are adopting the agenda. Yeah, thank you, Madam Semani, Mr. Sibanda, Advocate Sitole, Mr. Mkize, Madam Maseti, and myself. At this stage, then we're going to go on to the next agenda, the declaration of interests. The forms have been sent to the members for them to fill and send to the Secretariat. I will now ask the members if, in addition to the forms, they have got any verbal declarations they would like to make in the meeting. By show of hands, members, verbal declarations. There are no verbal declarations. We are therefore going to go on to the next item number 5. I'm going to call upon Mr. Matebula, the ESCOM RCA. While you are setting up, Mr. Matebula, I would like to ask you to go straight, because this matter has been to this committee. It also went to the ER, and the ER proposed or asked for some enhancements. And I see that those are enhancements coming from the ER. You've summarized them in one of your paragraphs. I think it's paragraph 7. So if you can just go straight then to what the ER asked us to do. Thank you, Mr. Matebula.
Thanks, Chairperson. I would ask Mr. Ntakeni maybe to talk directly to the enhancements that we have made as requested by the ER, so that we do not take a lot of your time, Chair. Mr. Ntakeni.
Yes, Mr. Matebula, thank you very much, and apologies for slight delay in unmuting. And good morning to you, Chairperson, and fellow members and the members of the public. Yes, indeed, I will then go to section 7 that deals with the issues that were raised by the energy regulator. Safe to say, Chairperson, that this matter is serving for the second time. It has served on the 2nd of June before you. So under 7.3, table 4, we have listed the issues that the regulator has raised and how we have responded to those issues. And perhaps maybe before I get into the issues, I just want also to indicate that when the document is converted to PDF, there were some paragraphs that get created, which then which are blank paragraphs. That has happened during the conversion of the document from the Word document to the PDF. But when we present, we will correct the paragraph referencing to avoid the confusion. And apologies for that. So the first issue that was raised, it was the issue around the correction of table numbering and in-text referencing. Because in the document that we presented, there were tables that were incorrectly referenced. For instance, I think it was table 43, it was referenced as table 42. That was corrected, Chairperson. The table numbering and in-text referencing has been corrected. There was also an issue of consistency in terms of how we present the document, the terminology, the use of NTCSA versus the transmission business. So we were advised to choose whether we use NTCSA or we use transmission business, because under section that deals with REP, we were referring mostly to NTCSA, and under operating cost section, it was relating to transmission. And for consistency, Chairperson, we have replaced the NTCSA with the transmission business to also align with the time at which the decision was made. The other issue, Chairperson, that was raised at the meeting was the issue of the ESCOM application. Whether this application is one application or we also receive an application from NTCSA. It was clear to Chairperson that the application that we received, it was one application from ESCOM group. There was no application that was received from the NTCSA. One major issue, Chairperson, that was raised is this issue of insurance, where members indicated that insurance should not be treated as an automatic pass-through to the consumer, to the consumers. And also, it was requested that the team should enhance this section. And in our response, Chairperson, we are indicating that the insurance costs are not a pass-through cost. These are the costs that are independently analyzed with the other cost line item. So they are not treated as a pass-through. But in terms of the enhancements, there are paragraphs that we are indicating there, which is paragraph 6.3.48 to 6.3.51. I would like to correct that paragraph in line with what I indicated when I start. These paragraphs are starting from 6.3.55, and if I can take members to those paragraphs where the enhancements were made. What we indicated in 6.3.55 is the factors that influence insurance premium, and we have listed those factors, Chairperson. And 6.3.56, we had shown that there is no relationship between maintenance activities and insurance claim. Maintenance activities are independent or separate activities which are not claimed through insurance claims. And also 6.3.57, we are also further indicating that there is difference between maintenance activities and insurance claims. And then under 6.3.58, we are demonstrating what attributed to the increase of 913 relating to generation net insurance expenses. And those increases, those attributes are listed in that paragraph. The last point, Chairperson, before a recommendation was the issue of prudency and independent assessment of this cost. And we are indicating, Chairperson, that under 6.3.33, that the issue of prudency was taken into account when we were analyzing, and also the assessment was done using the annual financial statements, where the amount that are claimed in the RCAs are reconciled with the annual financial statements, and they were reconcilable. And that, Chairperson, is detailed under paragraph 6.3.59 and not 6.3.52 as indicated. Chairperson, with that, we are recommending under section 15 that the electricity subcommittee recommend to the energy regulator to approve the decision on ESCOM's MYPD 5 RCA application for 2023-24 financial year and the reason for decision. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Ntakeni. So at this stage, then I'm going to ask the members if you've got any questions or points of enhancements. By show of hands, members. Yes, I see Mr. Mkhize.
Thank you, Chairperson. I appreciate the presentation by Mr. Ntakeni and going straight to the issues that were raised. I think on the last part, when it talks to insurance the insurance part, I think it's going to be important just to clearly specify that insurance premiums will be linked to prudent plant operation and maintenance. I know that 6.3.57 does talk to that, but looking at the other side of the coin, but just to talk straight to that as part of the prevention loss clause. And then I think on the submission itself, there's also a need to account for the time, where in terms of the timelines, just to indicate and be able to account instead of leaving it open-ended like that. And I think it will also help there to reflect on the status during the status of ESCOM during the period under review and the current unbundled ESCOM situation. Maybe make it a 3.4 on page 19 of 263. Yeah, otherwise, I would say that I'm likely covered, but also make sure that the number of years indicate the financial years are indicated properly and consistently throughout the document, as well as removing some of the empty paragraphs that you see in the RFD. So I think it would help, since it will be going back to ER, to also to make sure that there's language editing to deal with those gremlins. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. I now call upon Madam Maseti.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you to Mr. Ntakeni for the introduction of the submission. Chairperson, mine is also to just enhance. Remember that we are now dealing with the actuals when we're looking at the RCA. So it's not a question of framing the reasons for allowing certain cost as if it is something that still needs to happen, and therefore we are allowing it because it must still happen. What we expect from the actuals is factual information that justifies, for instance, why the insurance cost requested or claimed by ESCOM must be granted. So it must be factual. And this is exactly how we guided at the ER in terms of what needs to be, what kind of information needs to be presented to demonstrate this. So I would have expected that we are informed as to the verification that has been done, which supports the quantum of the amount that is requested to start off with. That because it's a given that insurance will be part of the operational or the operational expenses. So if there is something that is more than what we expect, we would at least be in a position to see whether this is something that was within ESCOM's control. If there's something out of the ordinary, then we'll be able to tell these are costs that, or these are incidents that were within ESCOM's control, and therefore these failures are not supposed to be passed on, maybe because of poor risk management or inadequate maintenance or losses of assets. So in this case, can we be clarified as to the actual insurance expenditure? Because that's the thing that we need to be told about, and that's not what is coming out. And it is important that it comes out that way as an actual and be demonstrated, because we are dealing now with a backwards application, backward-looking application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Masedi, and I now call upon Advocate Sithole.
Thank you, Chairperson, for the opportunity, and to the presenter, Chair. Mine is also to add on the points of enhancements already mentioned by the members. And the first one I've got just two. The first one is on page 3. I think the team has indicated the timelines in relation to this particular application, but I think it will be better for us to, or rather for the team to enhance it and put it in a tabular form. I think those timelines are on paragraph 4.3 to 4.8. And this will also assist us in addressing one of the issues we had a discussion on with the AGSA. So they can put that information in a tabular format. And the other one, Chair, which is the last one on page 6, of the submission cover, where we are addressing the issues raised by the energy regulator. Right at the top, there's a reference shown. There's a reference to table 1. I was just going to ask that maybe we do enhance it by indicating table 1 of the reasons for decisions, because if we leave it like that, one is tempted to look at the table 1 of the submission cover, and when you go there, it is not talking to that response. So that table 1 is the table 1 in the RFD. So those are my 2 points of enhancements, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, Advocate Sithole. And now I'm going to call upon Mr. Sibanda.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the team. Chair, mine is on operating costs, and perhaps just the way that we are analyzing and reaching our conclusions on some of these items. So, for instance, on page 76, where we're dealing with facilities. So facilities costs increased by 107%. But we limit the increase to inflation because we are saying that these are within management's control, which I agree with. But then when you go to fleet and travel costs, they are increasing by 214%, but we are allowing them. And then also, if you go to wheeling costs, again, they increase by 129%. And we do say that these are within management's control and should be managed more efficiently, but we seem to be allowing them. So I'm just trying to reconcile that analysis with the conclusions that we are reaching on those items, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sibanda. So, Mr. Ntakin, can I ask you then to respond to the issues raised by the members?
Yes, thank you, Chairperson, and thank you for the issues that has been raised. The issues that were raised by Member Kize, we will do those enhancements on leading to the ER, including removing the empty paragraphs that were created when the document is converted, and linking the issue, the insurance premium to issue of prudency, and also accounting for the timelines. We will do that, also taking into account the guidance that was provided by the CEO. We will do that, and thanks for the enhancements. And from Madam Masiti, the verifications that was done to indicate what are the actual amounts and if those actual amounts were verified. Yes, indeed, the expenses as indicated, I think it in paragraph 6.3.58, and my colleagues will come in here to also assist. It has rise from 3.3 billion to 4.2 billion, which resulted in an increase of 913 million. And these amounts, they were verified, Chairperson. We looked at the annual financial statements to verify and also to indicate that this insurance cost also goes for each division, generation, transmission, and distribution, and are analyzed independently. But I will assist my colleagues to augment the issues. And then on the issue that Member Sibanda has requested on consistency on how we allow the amounts, can I ask Maria or Wena to assist on those issues? Thanks, Chairperson.
All right, thank you. Can I ask then the rest of the team to come in to assist?
Okay, good morning, Chairperson, members and colleagues. Can I please ask Mr. Sibanda to indicate which page with regards to fleet and travel costs and wheeling costs so that I can answer accordingly? Thank you.
All right, while Mr. Sibanda. Oh, I see Madam Makubane wants to come in.
Chair, yeah, so the first one that I referred to is on page 76. That's facilities. The next one is fleet and travel on page 79, paragraph 6.3.120. And then the next one is page 81, paragraph 6.3.132. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Sibanda. Before going to Madam Makubane, then can we go back then to you, Madam Matlo? You've heard what Mr. Sibanda said, response to that.
Okay, good morning, Chairperson, members and colleagues. With regards to fleet and travel costs and wheeling costs, I think we need to, maybe the way we have rephrased this, the increase were limited to inflation for those fleet and travel and wheeling costs. And with regards to the net insurance claim, the net insurance claim with regards to the insurance is divided according to each generation business for generation, transmission, distribution, and corporate and South African Energy Corporation. And this has been verified on the audited financial statements for Eskom. And also, yeah, we have also verified this costs in terms of the audited financial statement and they were all reconciling. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Matlo. And then we're going to ask now Madam Makubane to come in. Her hand is up.
Thank you, Chairperson. Apologies for the delay. I just wanted to probably add in terms of the sections that Mr. Sibanda raised, that I think we can enhance and clearly indicate instances where we are allowing and the reasons thereof, if those are not coming out clearly. I think the team can look into those and just bring clarity to the reasons where we limit and to the reasons that we allow as applied. But I also wanted to touch on Mr. question regarding the actual costs. I think we do list the drivers for the additional cost, but perhaps we could put more detail there in terms of the contribution, where possible, the contribution of each of those drivers. But we do highlight that the increase in the asset base with the additional units that came online within the horizon and changes in some methodologies of calculating, etc. So perhaps we can just enhance that so that it clearly shows that the drivers of the increase is based on the reasons that have been listed. Thank you, Chair. But also we noted all the areas of enhancement, which are welcome and will be affected before the matter goes to ER. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Makubani. So at this stage, then, I am going to go back to the members to ask if they've got follow-up questions or any new questions or new enhancements or follow-ups. Over to you, members, by show of hands. I do not see any hands. So I think then we need to go to the recommendations and see if the members, which way they are voting. I see there on section 15, the recommendation is requested that the electricity subcommittee recommend that the energy regulator approve the decision on MYPD 5 RCA application for 23-24 financial year and the reasons for decision on ESCOM's MYPD 5 RCA application for the period 23-24 financial year. So I'm asking the members to say, subject to all those enhancements that the members have raised, and which obviously the Secretariat will also capture. So I'm therefore not going to repeat all the enhancements. So subject to those enhancements and the recommendation as read, by show of hands, members, if you are in support of the recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Mkize, Madam Simane, Mr. Sibanda, Madam Sitole, and Madam Maseti, myself as well. I am also in support, and therefore, based on that, we are now going to go on to the next item, number 6. I think it's also still for it is the ESCOM generation 6-month service quality incentive. Over to you, Mr. Matebula.
Chairperson, thanks. So this one is for distribution, and Chair, this is a scheme that was introduced by the regulator in 2003, measuring the quality of service from these licensees. And Chair, with that, we had a condition that we should be receiving 6 monthly reports indicating performance against this service quality indicators, and specifically the 3, which is SAIDI, SAIFI, and HSLI, applicable to this distribution licensee. So, Chair, what we have before us is the unaudited data, but we obviously wanted to bring it before the members for noting, or recommendation to ER for noting, while we are waiting for the audited figures Chair, which will then talk to the complete year that we are currently measuring. So, Chair, let me allow Mr. Hopper just maybe to give a bit of detail, and we can consider the recommendations. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, good morning through you, Chair. Good day, Mr. Matebula, Chairperson, members and colleagues. With what Mr. Matebula has actually stated, the performance that we will be sharing is the 6-month result for the ESCOM generation. Without actually going above what the EM has actually said, we can now zoom directly to the table under 4.4, on which you talk about Saidi, and the indication on the 6-monthly result is that Saidi is at 35.41, which falls within the dead band, and approved dead band was from 34.03 to 37.76, which means that ESCOM distribution on Saidi, they were within the acceptable network reliability. The same goes for Saifi, which on the 6-month result is on 11.85, which falls between the approved dead band of 11.38 and 16.49, as well as the high voltage supply loss index, on which the result is on 13.03, which falls within the approved band of 10.89, as well as 60.67. What this indicates is that the ESCOM distribution is within the reliable network indicator based on the result that has been provided. And also, if the results were to continue for the remaining 6 months as follows, it means there won't be any reward for the penalty, as well as any rewards for performance. And with that, I think we can go straight to the recommendation, which is on 6 of 6, on which the ELS is to recommend to the energy regulator to know the unaudited 6-month ESCOM distribution SQI performance report, as well as to know that the ESCOM distribution did comply with the requirement of reporting the 6-month performance for ESCOM distribution. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. I'm now going to ask the members if they've got any questions regarding the submission. Over to you, members, by show of hands. Yes, I see Mr. Sibanda.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you to the team. So, Chair, I see that we say that these service quality incentives help us to monitor service quality, identify risks, verify compliance, but also to assess whether the targets are still appropriate. And that is where my question is. Where do we do this assessment to determine whether the targets are still appropriate? That is one. Secondly, when last did we review these targets? Because I'm not sure whether there has ever been any breach or penalty imposed for these breaches. I stand to be corrected. But yeah, maybe if I can be assisted there. When have we done the the review of the targets? The other issue that I wanted to check is, so besides relying on these reports that we get from the licensees, how else do we verify that indeed they are performing according to targets? I know this is relating to incentives, but I'm just wondering, what is it that we do practically from our side to verify, apart from relying on these reports? So, for instance, in the telecom sector, there are certain targets that have to be met, right? But the engineers from ICASA are able to go and check whether network coverage, for instance, at what level is it? What's the level of dropped calls and all of that. So engineers are able to drive from Johannesburg to Pretoria on the N1 and tell you that on this particular spot, the rate of drop calls is this much and so forth. But how do we verify that from our side, Chair? That's the question that I have. The other one is on page 5 of 7, under motivation, paragraph 5.4 says the 2025-26 financial year is a trial implementation period. And the interim results will not result in the application of financial rewards or penalties. What do we mean by that? I just couldn't understand exactly what we mean by that, if I can be clarified, because I thought we've had these SQI targets for as long as I can remember. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Sibanda. And then I'm going to call upon Madam Maseki.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, mine is just to make sure that we state categorically that we are not really accepting this. It is just for information purposes, just to monitor the performance during the course of the financial year, insofar as distribution is concerned, so that we are careful of being seen to have to have kind of accepted this information without verification or audits of this information. And this is because these any revenue generated out of a reward from this, it will go to the RCA in favor of Eskom, and obviously consumers will be paying more. So we need to be just careful about it, and make sure that we don't create an impression that it has been verified from our side, or having been approved as it is the half year performance that has not been audited, and therefore it does not necessarily mean that NERSA will not revisit this information when NERSA conducts its assessment, full assessment. So we need to make it clear that at the end, that NERSA will consider this information when NERSA conducts its assessment of Eskom's of the what do you call the standards of SQI that we have imposed or approved for the distribution for Eskom, so that it's not information that is given that will not touch again, to make sure that we do what we have to do. Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you, Madam Maseki. And I now call upon Mr. Mkiza.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thanks to the presenter. I note that this SQI, there is a caveat to the effect that there isn't any incentives going to be paid or penalty based on the fact that this falls within the band, and that the whole issue of whether there's going to be an incentive or not will come at the end. But I would appreciate if we just for future, not necessarily now, to say consider also looking at it from a user or client perspective or end. Because sometimes you get these, but you find that customers are experiencing something different at the end. So because of other challenges in the value chain, just to consider that at the end of the day, it is what happens at the customer end that is problematic, and pay attention to those pinch points within the value chain, just to reflect on that in future submissions. As well as, I think Ms. Van has covered the issue of the analysis. And then to that effect, I think it's also going to be important in just to say in the dispensation where we are going, what is going to happen with regard to such an incentive. I think as preparation, it will help us to always look at things as they stand in the short, medium, and long term as to what is going to happen, because that kind of thinking will help us in terms of preparing for what is imminent, going to the electricity market in the country. These are just things to consider for the future submissions in this regard. Otherwise, I'm happy with what is before us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. May I now ask the team then to respond to what the members have raised?
Okay, thanks for that, Chairman. If I may come through, I think I'll firstly start with what Madam Nomfundo said, is that what's before us is more of information sharing purposes. The results that have been obtained from ESCOM, they are unaudited, and they are there just for the regulator members to measure, actually have the view of what has been the ESCOM distribution performance for the time being for the 6 months. And to come to Mr. Spanda, where the assessment gets drawn from. The assessment gets drawn based on the historical performance, which is mainly the 10-year historical performance. And using that historical performance, that's when we draw in the baseline target. And then we add some statistical analysis on which now we draw on the targets that will actually have some improvement from the baseline target. And for an example, if we go to the table which actually shows the targets of what has been provided to us as well as the approved deadband. From that table, that means the baseline target is the deadband. And what we did with that is that if there is any improvements from that baseline target for the SAIFI, which means if the SAIFI is less than 11, that's when now we start having the incentives of it. And if the baseline is less than the 16.5 for SAIFI, that's where now the penalty will be starting from. And the other question was the reviewing part of the target. The target setting is actually done annually. For this one, the report did serve on the ER of May 2025. So now we're actually giving the performance of what has happened from that decision which was taken in May 2025. And for the verification of data, just that the ESCOM network can be a bit too much for us in auditing. We do audits for ESCOM, and the verification of data can be done manually per substation, on which even from our side, we can actually ask the downloads directly from ESCOM on their substation to indicate the performance of the substation in terms of the availability of their network, as well as when they did lose some of the high voltage supply customers of it. And from Mr. Mkhize, we do take the perspective of the end users. We will in future see how we can factor that into consideration. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Hopper. So I'm now going to check with the members if they've got any follow-up questions. Yes, I see Mr. Sibanda.
Yeah, Chair, just a follow-up. Are we saying that these targets are new from 2025? And if so, I think it will assist perhaps to indicate what the previous targets were, and maybe at some point just to see whether there's a trend in terms of the targets over time, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Sibanda. I now see Madam Maseti.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, the issue of the review, even at the time when these matters were brought before us for this relevant period, it was raised even at that point, and I think it was also on transmission. And I recall very well Mr. Pukula asking that they look at specific categories and criteria. I think one of them was he specifically asked Charles Geldert to look into that. It has been a concern. It's the fact that these are just brought to us with the usual things that are easy for performance purposes, the technical performance purposes, and without looking at where are the real risk and how the licensee is performing, so that we can look at other areas that pose risk. I think it is important from the distribution side. I will also just touch on transmission as well, even if now we look at NTSA, but also on generation, because the issue sometimes is that we get used to be looking at these at certain areas of performance, of technical performance, and we don't look at the ones that pose a risk because of unreliability and cost implications on consumers. So the ones that request that, can we now start looking at other aspects that we have not included in our criteria when we adopt it before the year starts? So, Mr. Sibanda, your point, you are raising something that we raised when we considered what is it that we are going to assess in this financial year. So it hasn't changed much at all. So we still need to revisit the criteria that we are using in terms of measuring technical performance. Thank you. Based also on risk and the impact on consumers. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Maseti. So may I ask the team to respond to the follow-up questions?
Okay, thanks, Chair. To respond to Mr. Sibanda, yes, we can add to the submission the trend analysis based on the past year's performance. Thanks. And I see Mr.
Yes, Mr. Geldert.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, we did look at but these for distribution, these are the standard criteria that are used internationally. South Africa obviously has different figures because of the distances that are involved in the restoration and the travel times, but the actual criteria are the ones which are internationally used for comparison. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Geldert. So may I just check once again with the members if they've been answered? I do not see any hands.
Sorry, Chair. Apologies, Chair.
Yes.
Chair, I'm not sure if my question was answered regarding the trial implementation period. What do we mean by that?
Tim, can you answer Mr. Sibanda?
If I may come in, Mr. Sibanda, on the trial period, it's actually on item 7, not on item 6. It's on the ESCOM generation, not on ESCOM distribution.
Oh, I get you. Sorry. My apologies. Yeah, you're right. Thanks.
All right. Thank you for that. So I think we must now go to the recommendation, which is paragraph 15. It's recommended that, of course, the recommendations, we note all the enhancements that the members have raised. So the submission will therefore have to be enhanced when it goes to the ER, enhanced with those points raised by the members. So with that in mind, therefore, we go to the recommendation, which says it's recommended that the Electricity Subcommittee recommends to the energy regulator to note the unaudited 6 months energy distribution SQI performance report for 25-26 financial year, and the ESCOM distribution has complied with the 6-month reporting requirement contained in the approved service quality incentive framework. So by show of hands, members, if you are in support of the recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Mkize, Madam Semane, Mr. Sibanda, Madam Maseti, Madam Sitole. I'm also in support. So with that, we are now going to go to item number 7. Thank you, Mr. Matebula. Item number 7.
Thanks, Chair. I think without taking a lot of your time, and Chair, item 7, talks to the generation SQI, and Chair, I think Mr. Hopper will give details to that. I must indicate that this was approved by the regulator, and the first year was obviously indicated to be a trial phase, obviously to see how the system will work. I must also indicate that there has been a pushback from ESCOM with regard to this, mainly challenging how we have arrived at the targets that we have put, and this was in comparison with how we arrived at the targets for distribution and transmission, because the generation was mainly aligned to what was approved during the MYP 6. So there is that correspondence that we received from ESCOM actually challenging that. So we are still dealing with that with the team. We will bring it to the regulator. I just wanted to put that forward as Mr. Hopper will be talking to this particular submission, Chair. Thanks. Mr. Hopper.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Matebula. The request before the ELS committee is to recommend the noting of the report of an audited 6-month performance for ESCOM generation, as well as to say that the ESCOM generation did comply with the reporting requirement. And just to also align with what Mr. Sibanda has said earlier about 5.4, based on the submission year, the ESCOM generation was approved on a trial period, and the trial period was for 1 year, which means that the targets that were set for 2025-26 financial year are actually on a trial period, and there are no incentives, no penalty attached to the performance which was received. On the performance highlights, we can zoom to the table under 4.4. And the first one being the energy availability factor. The approved dead band was provided to be between 65 to 75. And the 6-month result from ESCOM generation is at 62.35, which is below the dead band. And if the performance is sustained as it is, it is a pointation of a penalty trajectory by taking into consideration that we are on a trial period. And the other one was on the UCLF, which is the unplanned capability loss factor, which has a dead band of 23.2 to 13.2. And the 6-month result as well is at 25.82, which also falls at the lower dead band, with the trajectory of it will be a penalty if it was not on the trial period. And the other two, the unplanned loss factor as well as the other capability loss factor, they are not mainly on the scheme, but they are therefore operational indicators. And what we have on the planned capability loss factor, the target, we set it at 10.5, and for the 6-month result is at 11.29, which is slightly above the planning assumption of it. This reflects that there is an increased planned maintenance. And the expectation thereof based on this is that on the remaining 6 months, there should be a performance, more of a better performance enhancement in terms of the EAF, since there has been an increased planned maintenance. And the other one for the other capability loss factor, the operational indicator, we approved it at 1.5, and on the 6-month result is sitting at 0.5, which means that there is a better historical planning assumption, indicating there has been a minimal losses which are outside the planned and the planned as well as the unplanned outages. Based on the result that has been provided here before us, we can just say that the key challenges remains the high unplanned loss factor, which means there is a high number of unplanned failures. And therefore, should ESCOM actually improve on having less unplanned capability loss factor, we will see a rise in their energy availability factor. And also to emphasize that the scheme is on a trial period for the years of 25-26, and we are looking at making another, I would say, another presentation to the ELS based on what Mr. Matebula did bring forward. There has been some indication of a push thereof, on which that will now be put on having the funds for it, and the funds for the penalties as well as the penalties coming the next financial year, which is obviously the 26-2027. And also based on that, you can now go to the recommendation, which is that the ELS is to recommend to the energy regulator to note the unaudited 6-month ESCOM SQR performance, as well as know that ESCOM generation has complied with the requirement to report on their 6-month reporting. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Before I go and ask the members for their enhancements or questions, let me just state here that on the 31st of July, ESCOM issued a media statement where they said that their performance for the financial year to date, the current financial year, it's now sitting at 66.79%, which is within the dead band. And they also recorded that on the 26th of July, they actually hit an EAF of 82%. Of course, this is for this financial year, and I'm fully aware of the fact that the presentation was based on the previous financial year. So with that, may I now ask the members if they've got any questions or enhancements? Over to you, members. Over to you, members, by show of hands, if you've got any questions or enhancements. Yes, starting with you, Madam Maseti.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thanks to Mr. Hopa. Firstly, let me start with the that target because we have set the performance target of 75% from our side for the MYPD period. So when it comes to generation, that the EAF of 75%, which we tested, which we asked ESCOM to comment even during the public hearings under oath. So from our side, as things stand, we had set a target of 75%, and the Act allows us to set performance target. So for generation is 75%. So I don't know how that compares then with the 66 that ESCOM has hit. Because it still has not achieved the target that is set by the regulator in terms of the relevant period, which is 2025, 26, 26, 27, 27, 28. So I think it will also be important that perhaps for our benefit, that context be included in the next report. Especially because this one is a half year. I'm hoping that in the final report, we'll be able to, yes, compare the performance that we are looking at in terms of the service, the service quality here, and the one that we had set in our decision. And it is also important that we also report on the performance in relation to the MYPD decision and to this committee, because it is part of the monitoring of that decision and the performance, so that we know what are the challenges as we were presented with that generation recovery plan. And we also put allowed certain cost so that ESCOM can be in a position to achieve the target that we have set. It's important that a submission comes here or find a way of putting that information where it fits, but also do the if we need to draw a distinction with what we are looking at here, then we do so. So that here, I understand we are not only looking at Saidi alone because it would not be sufficient, but we're also looking at other measures. That's the first thing. Then the second one is being very clear as we analyze these targets, because at the end of the day, if there's poor performance, it imposes or creates economic cost for customers through the interruption of supply and also the loss of load. So it's very important that we get analysis that is simplified relating to the reliability. And because that reliability will give an indication of interruption of supply as well as the loss of the load, maybe to industrial customers. And that obviously has an impact. But also, if there's overperformance of some sort because of the standards that we have put in place and not looking at the ones that cause the risk, obviously, again, that will have the economic harm, and cost will have to be recovered through the RCA. So I would like to request that these things be simplified, and also to include the performance that relates to the 75% that we are expecting as part of our decision, because I have not seen a submission that talks to that, so that we monitor how ESCOM has performed in the previous year, 2025, and also quarterly how it is performing for 2026-27. I would like to leave it at that, Chairperson, but I think it is very important so that we don't only consider these things when we are looking at the RCAs, and then we start, start obtaining information about how ESCOM the generation fleet performed. And at that point, the team will be doing it under pressure because it needs to, we need to take a decision. So that's what I would suggest, Chairperson. But the analysis must really entail the part about the consumer or the customer experience insofar as interrupted supply is concerned, load curtailments and other economic losses, and the implications on the tariffs. So those are, for me, the key factors that we must take into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Masedi. May I now ask the team to respond?
Thank you, Chair. I would firstly start by saying that we do take note of what has been raised, and in the coming reports, they will be included, as well as do the analysis based on what has been approved on the technical indicators, as well as what has been entailed in the MYPD, and as well as note if there are any challenges or any generation recovery plans that needs to be taken into consideration for this analysis, as we'll be preparing also for the final audited performance, which usually do come around during the RCA time. So that note has been taken into consideration and it will be enhanced thereof. And we can also look at other trend analysis and see the implementation that load curtailment has and how it also affects the end users on the tariff side. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. So can I now check with the members if they've got any follow-up questions or enhancements? No, I do not see any more hands. So we'll go to section 15, the recommendation, where it's recommended that the electricity subcommittee recommends to the energy regulator to note the unaudited 6-month ESCOM generation SQI performance report for 25-26 financial year, and note that ESCOM generation has complied with the 6-month reporting requirements contained in the approved service quality incentive framework. So it's those recommendations together with the enhancements that the Secretariat has going to capture for us. And then if the enhancements obviously will be included into the submission to the energy regulator. So with that, can I see by show of hands if members are in support of the recommendations with the announcements? Thank you, Madam Simane, Mr. Mkize, Madam Maseti, Mr. Sibanda, Madam Sitole, and myself. On that note, then we are going to go to the next item number 8, for Mr. Matebula once again.
Chair, so this one, Chair, is obviously the same principle, and this is for the transmission company. And again, I'll ask Mr. Hopper just to talk to the details, and we can take questions from members, Chair. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Matebula. This follows the previous 2 submissions. This one is for the National Transmission Company, to say that the ELS committee is recommended to note the unaudited results for the 6-month NTCSA SQI performance report, as well as to know that the NTSA has complied with the reporting requirements. And the performance indicators for NTCSA, it's based on the 60 minutes, major incidents, and the third one being the line force per 100 kilometer. On the 60 minutes, we are actually indicating the cumulative performance metric for less severe transmission disruptions, as well as loss of due to incidents of magnitude of less than 160 minutes. Major incidents, we're looking at the total annual 60 minutes being greater than 160 minutes. On the line faults, the performance quantifies where a transmission line experiences a trip. Those trips are mainly related to birds interactions, lightning strikes, as well as wildfires. And we can zoom to table 2, which is under paragraph 4.4. And with that, we have that during the approval of the energy regulator, for the 60 minutes, the approved target for the deadband was between 2.2 and 4.6. And on the 6-month results, we are sitting at 2.31, which preliminary on assessment, we can say is within the deadband. And the same goes for major incidents. The deadband has been between 1 to 3 incidents, and at the time of reporting, there were only 2 major incidents that happened on the transmission network, which is also within the deadband. And on line faults per 100 kilometer, the target was that it should be less than 1.2. And the 6-month result, we have the target at, we have the result at 1, which indicates potential of a reward zone. But then this is also pending audits, as well as checking how the NTCSA will perform for the remaining 3 months of the financial year. And then with that, we can take it to the recommendation, which is on 6 of 6, which is to say that the ELS committee is to recommend to the ER to note the unaudited 6-month NTCSA SQR performance report, as well as to know that the NTCSA has complied with the reporting of the 6-month requirement. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Hooper. So I'm now going to call upon the members if they've got any questions or enhancements. I do not see any hands from the members, and the recommendation has already been read by Mr. Hooper. So I'm going to ask the members now by show of hands if they're in support of the recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Mkize. Thank you, Madam Simane. Thank you, Mr. Sibanda. Thank you, Madam Sitole. Thank you, Madam Maseti. I'm also in support. So on that note, we are now going to go to item number 9. Over to you, Mr. Matebula.
Thank you, Chair. This item, Chair, talks to an application that we received from Eskom, Chair. The application was talking to a proposed 2-year pilot tariff for cryptocurrency mining and other customers. Chair, we brought this to members previously in an ELS, and we requested to firstly have a workshop mode on it to be able to appraise members on this application before we make the recommendations that we have provided today. And Chair, I want to allow maybe Mr. Ralufe just to talk to the details, and then we can talk to the reasons behind the type of recommendations that we are putting forward for the members to consider, Chair. Let me allow Mr. Ralufe first, and then we can talk to that. Thanks.
Good morning, Chairperson, and everyone in the meeting. Chairperson, I'll be taking members through the submission on Eskom application for the proposed 2-year pilot cryptocurrency mining and other flexible customers. Chairperson, before I proceed, I would like to highlight the correction on the submission. Firstly, under the purpose paragraph 2.1.3, it should read in full, recommend that a letter be sent to Eskom informing that it may proceed with the proposed 2-year pilot project on a ring-fenced basis, subject to conditions set out in paragraph 5.4.3 to 5.4.6 of the submission, and that ESCOM shall submit quarterly monitoring and performance report to NERSA. Chairperson, secondly, the same paragraph that I read applies to a recommendation in 14.1.3. So that is the correction I needed to make. And this correction, Chairperson, will simply align the recommendations with the intent of the submission and clarify that recommendation is not an approval of a tariff, but rather support for ring-fenced pilot subject to regulatory conditions. Chairperson, the submission will be taken as read, and I will briefly highlight the following. Like Mr. Matebula have said, members will recall that this matter was previously served before the ELS, where guidance was provided that the engagement undertaken with ESCOM and that the submission be strengthened. Chairperson, ESCOM has since provided further information which has been incorporated in the revised submission, which is serving today, together with responses on the questions which was previously raised by members. And the revised submission now provides a more comprehensive explanation of this proposal. Chairperson, to be brief on the studies, ESCOM studies indicated that the South African power system is entering a period of increasing surplus generation during certain hours of the day, largely driven by the increasing renewable energy penetration. This is expected to result in between 5,000 megawatts and 7,000 megawatts of electricity surplus generation during certain periods, together with increasing renewable energy curtailment. And the proposed pilot seeks to introduce new flexible demand that can consume electricity during this surplus periods, so that the electricity dumping be reduced. But from a technical perspective, this has a potential to reduce renewable energy curtailment, to reduce deemed electricity payments, excuse me, and improve utilization of existing generation asset of fleet, and smoothen system demand, and also contribute to additional revenue from electricity that would not be sold or rather be dumped. And Chairperson and members will note that the submission also recognizes that NERSA has historically encouraged ESCOM to pursue initiatives that grow electricity demand and improve utilization of existing assets. So according to the objective of creating new flexible demand is supported in principle. However, Chairperson, this is notwithstanding potential benefits. The application raises important regulatory consideration, and the proposed tariffs has not been developed through an approved tariff methodology, comprehensive cost of supply study, or established customers categorization framework. Key aspects including the permanent tariff design, eligibility criteria, and pricing methodology remained under development and are intended to be informed by the pilot itself. Chairperson, for this reason, the submission concludes that NERSA is not currently in a position to approve the proposed tariff as submitted. Instead, the recommendation is that ESCOM be permitted to undertake a limited ring-fenced pilot subject to conditions set out in the submission, including separate accounting, quarterly reporting, and future formal tariff application. Should ESCOM wish to introduce a permanent tariff, Chairperson, I would also like to bring bring one additional matter to your attention. NERSA has received a correspondence from a stakeholder raising concern regarding the proposed tariff pilot, and the stakeholder has requested clarity on, and amongst others, and this was during the process of assessment of the ESCOM application. So the stakeholder was seeking clarity on whether ESCOM has received regulatory approval to conclude agreement under the pilot, and whether the proposed arrangement may result in discriminatory treatment of customers. Thirdly, the regulatory basis for the proposed tariff and the NERSA's role in approving future pricing agreement. Chairperson, this issue, the issue raised largely, the issues raised largely relate to the matters already identified in the submission, particularly those concerning tariff approval, customer discrimination, and the applicable regulatory framework. The team is currently engaging the stakeholder and will provide feedback arising from the meeting. The outcome of today's deliberation will also assist in responding consistently with the stakeholder queries. And Chairperson, I would like to direct you to the recommendations, which reads as follows, that it is recommended that the electricity subcommittee or the ELS note the proposed, sorry, not the proposed 2-year pilot for cryptocurrency mining and other customers. Thirdly, recommend the matter to the energy regulator for noting. And thirdly, recommend that the letter be issued informing ESCOM that it may proceed with the pilot on ring-fenced basis, subject to conditions contained in the submission and the quarterly reporting requirements. Chairperson, let me pause there and wait for questions. The team is here to also assist in responding. I thank you.
Before I allow members to come in here, can I ask you to go to your paragraph 5.4, which is your recommendations. And I'm going to ask you to just go through the whole paragraph, all those points, because I think they are very important. I know the submission was sent to the members. I know they've read it, but I'm asking you to just go through it quickly, the whole of paragraph 9.4, which is necessary recommendations. Are you there, Mr. Alufe?
Yes, FTRM, I'm here.
All right. We'll give you a chance to get to paragraph 9.4, all of its points.
Yeah, FTRM 9.4 or 5.4. There's no 9.4 in there.
No, 5.4, necessary
Oh, okay.
recommendations. 5.
Oh, yes, I'm here. I'm here, FTRM. FTRM? Your guidance,
Yeah,
please?
Mr.
Can you
Alufe.
start there from 5.4.3? Explain what you are saying from 5.4.3 onwards.
Okay, 5.4.3. The pilot project must operate and accounted for separately from the from ESCOM's regulated electricity business activities approved under MYPD6. Yeah, hence we requested for a ring-fenced account so that it does not mix with the decisions of the MYPD6, because this has not gone for a public consultation and also through a normal regulatory process, which entails NERSA to take a decision on a specific tariff applied for, and also that comes up with the cost to serve, and that was the main basis behind. And then all revenues, costs, risks, and operational implications associated with the pilot project must be ring-fenced, recorded through a separate account and project account. It also speaks to the same narration that I've provided with 5.4.3. Participation in the pilot must remain voluntary, limited scope, and restricted maximum duration of 2 years, and consistent with the stated objectives of the pilot arrangement. And this also follows the the request by ESCOM to operate the pilot for 2 years. Now, with regards to what we're recommending, it's ESCOM be permitted to operate for that particular 2 years. Then after this pilot project, and then it will make a decision to then implement.
Sorry, Mr. Ralup, I see Madam Semane, your hand is up.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks to Mr. Ralufe. From my side, he can finish, Chair. What I wanted to find out, when he was making his presentation, he kept on referring to a certain stakeholder. So I wanted to find out in what context were those stakeholder inputs, how did they make their way into this process? Because just like as he said now, he said there was no public consultation process. So I was just wondering, how then does one stakeholder have the privilege of commenting on something that was not opened up for other public or other stakeholders in the public domain to comment on? Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Semane. So, Mr. Ralufe, Madam Semane is saying you can continue with the presentation, but obviously once you've done with the presentation, when it comes to answering questions from members, this is one of the questions you'll have to answer. So can you just continue and try to pick up the pace now?
Okay, sorry. Thank you, FTRM. I was at 5.4.5, which speaks about the 2 years, which ESCOM has indicated in its application that it's requesting to run this pilot for the duration of 2 years. So 5.5.6, ESCOM must submit quarterly report, including but not limited to the following. So
I think so. Sorry, Mr. Ralufe, I think you can skip that one. The members can read that one. Those conditions for the reports. Go to 5.5 now. Is it no? 5.5 and 5.6.
Okay, NERSA reserves the right to review, amend, or suspend or require the termination of the pilot project should implement result in any unintended adverse also linked with the MYPD. Yes, Chairperson, this is also to position NERSA so that should ESCOM's implementation of the pilot tariff deviate or rather do not address what ESCOM as tabled on its application, then we do have all powers to terminate it with immediately should it not serve what it desires for. And also on 5.6, ESCOM shall notify NERSA in writing once the pilot has been concluded, should ESCOM wish to implement on permanent basis, and it must be in formal writing together with evidence. Yeah, Chairperson, I think I addressed this previously on my very first narration of the first points to say, after 2 years, when ESCOM has run the pilot, should it wish, or rather should it perceive that this will work for ESCOM, then it will have to come with an application that is accompanied by the cost to serve, and all the requirements that are required in the process, and then it and this be registered as a tariff, or rather be approved on a normal basis of a tariff, apart from it being a pilot, and hence we're recommending that as a pilot it stands to operate under a ring-fenced account. I don't know if the EM and acting HOD and the team members want to augment on what I've said. And then on the issue raised by Ms. Simane, we received an email from this stakeholder, and the stakeholder was raising the issue that this customer category should not be granted should not be granted this opportunity by ESCOM. However, this stakeholder didn't want to be engaged, indicating that the phones are, or rather their gadgets are taken by the SAPS. They are not anyhow in communication. So should we wish to communicate, we should use a particular email. So the stakeholder was unreachable. So it's somehow a difficult one, but we never got to engage how the stakeholder knew about this. But however, they all come concurrently. The application came, and then the stakeholder brought the attention. It seems there was what can I say, a background misunderstanding between the stakeholder and the customer chairperson. And I'm saying the team can also come and augment what I've said. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. I see Madam Makubane.
Good morning once more, Chair. I just wanted to add in response to that question. It's not so the stakeholder indicates that they came to know of this information through a reliable source. So they don't come out to indicate how they acquired the information, and so we will then close it up with them in terms of the outcomes of these deliberations. But it does seem that he managed to get hold of this information through some means that he has not shared. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. So on that note, then I'm going to allow members to come with questions or enhancements by show of hands. Members. All right, I see Mr. Sibanda.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think maybe for starters, perhaps we should have been alerted of the concerns raised by this anonymous stakeholder. I think it's important that when we make decisions, we be given full information. But Chair, my question basically is around what we are being requested to do here. So I see that the legal analysis itself, if I can go to paragraph 5.3 under regulatory legal risk consideration. Well, apart from the fact that, again, I think we just need to write better, especially our legal analysis, just straight, plain language can assist a lot. But so we talk about depriving stakeholders an opportunity to submit their views, circumventing the EPP and all of that. And then we say that we cannot take a decision that is administrative action without giving stakeholders an opportunity to comment. All right. Then in 5.4, the one that you directed Mr. Ralufe to, it says NERSA is currently not in a position to approve or endorse the proposed pilot tariff as submitted. But if you go to the recommendations section, it says it is recommended that the electricity subcommittee notes the proposed pilot tariff, recommend it to ER for noting, and then recommend that a letter be sent to ESCOM to proceed with the proposed 2-year pilot tariff. So is this not endorsing if we are writing a letter to ESCOM to proceed? Whereas under legal, we said we cannot approve or endorse the proposed pilot tariff as submitted. Yet we are being requested to send a letter that it's fine, you can go ahead. But then we are just noting, this, or sending this to ER to note. So I'm not sure whether we have that latitude to note an application. Maybe that's the first thing that I needed to ask, whether this is a tariff application, because it's headed as such. It says ESCOM Holdings application for a proposed 2-year pilot tariff. So I'll proceed on the premise that it is an application. But do we have the latitude to note an application, or can we only approve or not approve an application? So I'm a bit lost by that noting, but also us proposing to send a letter to ESCOM that, yes, it's fine, you can go ahead. Is that not endorsing or a tacit approval, basically? And which runs counter to what the legal analysis is saying, that we cannot do this without subjecting this application to public scrutiny. So that's what is it? The counterintuitive part of this submission for me. 5.5 and probably the rest of those others. Are these conditions? Are we proposing these as conditions, or and can we make these conditions if we are not approving? We're simply noting. So I just have those difficulties, Chair, trying to reconcile what we are being requested to do and the substance of what we're actually doing. Because in effect, we are approving this. In effect, we are imposing conditions. In effect, we are saying it's fine. but in word we're saying no. We're just noting this, so those perhaps are my questions. Apart from perhaps the whole idea around this type of an application. I do understand from a technical perspective that yes, probably it might assist with respect to grid stability and consuming excess energy and all of that energy that could have gone to waste or whatever. That's fine. But legally speaking, and for a regulator, what powers do we have? What powers are we exercising here? And then I also saw something that was a bit of a concern, again, under 5.3 regulatory and legal risk consideration, where we're saying that in the past, there have been customers that have come to make a similar proposal, and yet ESCOM rejected those to the extent that they wanted to challenge NERSA legally. I guess I would love to know more about that. What are we saying? What are those instances? Do we have? Can we get more clarity on that? Can we draw from those past instances and inform this particular submission that is before us? It's stated in sort of like in passing, but I think there's a lot that's contained in that statement. That's 5.3.1.2. Thank you, Chair.
I thank you, Mr. Sibanda. I'm now going to call upon Madam Maseti.
Thank you, Chairperson, for the opportunity. Chairperson, without delving much on that issue of what is our mandate, but I do want to emphasize that the Act is very clear in section 4, for instance, where it gives NERSA the mandate to regulate prices and tariffs. So that is in section 4. So we have the power to regulate, to determine, and to approve. So our power when it comes to a matter that relates to prices or tariffs or rates, our power is not to note. So that is very clear. Our power in section 4 is to regulate. Then our power in terms of section 15 is to approve or determine. So it's very clear because the tariff is a license condition. Now, the submission that is before us contradicts that power. So we do not have a jurisdiction to note. We only have jurisdiction to approve, determine, and to regulate. So those are the powers that we have. So what is before us is inconsistent with Section 4 as well as Section 15. So that's my first source of discomfort. The second source of discomfort is again in terms of inconsistency with Section 10. Section 10 is very clear that every decision that is taken by the regulator, that decision must comply with, or at least we must consult with affected stakeholders. Remember that, at least from my side, I don't know who are all these customers that ESCOM will be supplying at this pilot tariff, because it says mining as well as other customers. So firstly, I don't know who those customers are. But the second thing is just not those customers, is about other customers that might be subsidizing these customers, that the mining customers and the other that ESCOM makes reference to. So I am not in a position to tell on the issue of a potential subsidization. that is undue and how much of it. So that is the third concern that I have, and I'll be worried then to support a decision when I don't have that information that is critical in terms of the impact, and not just the information that is not there to assess the impact, but also the fact that a procedural process called for in Section 10 of the Act, that is in terms of Section 10 of the Act, the NERA Act, that procedure has not been followed here. And that obviously raises a question of transparency. And we all know already that we now need to make sure that we respect transparency, and we're not going to take decisions that will affect others, and those decisions do not follow the due process. So due process has not been followed here, and that is a serious one, and I would not want NERSA to repeat issues of due process by approving or noting this and sending a letter that says, because our duty as the regulator is not to make decisions about sending a letter. We don't have that jurisdiction. It's an operational issue. Our decision is not a decision of saying, we're sending a letter, let them continue. That, again, is not something that must come before us. Then, Chairperson, I also want to check as to, that will be the fifth issue that I'm raising. The reason why ESCOM has not opted for the flexible load and the supply like it does with other customers. If that was put before ESCOM, just so that the team understands why they opted for this and not the other one, the flexible load approach. And then this last point, which is the sixth point, I do understand the issue of ring fencing, but my question around monitoring of the revenue shortfall, which is going to be a challenge, is to understand exactly what the impact is going to be, the revenue loss impact, for instance, and how much is that? And remember, I don't know also the cost to serve each of these customers, so that we make sure that what is going to be recovered out of these customers is not just the energy cost. It is also other costs relating to the network cost, the capacity margin that needs to be covered, mainly your fixed cost that I am referring to here, to cover the capacity and other infrastructure cost, and not just to focus on energy cost. So that is the balance again that we need to strike here. Those are all the key questions that at least I have from my side. If those questions can be clarified. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Maseti. And maybe at this stage, before I ask the team to clarify or to respond, may I ask Mr. Murati to come in here on the issue of jurisdiction? Then the team can answer the rest. And the issue of jurisdiction that Madam Maseti raised, saying that NERSA does not have powers to note, NERSA's got powers to regulate, that everything that NERSA does must be subjected to public participation. So even a letter like this proposed by the team to ESCOM should have gone through the public participation process. So can I just start with Mr. Murati to hear
not the
what
letter,
is the response?
not the letter. The letter, we never, as the board and the subcommittee of the board, approve letters. It's operational. I'm just talking about the decision. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you for that clarification. So maybe let me leave it to Mr. Murati. He has heard what Madam Maseti is saying, if he can respond. I also saw Mr. Sibanda, your hand was up. Okay, I don't.
Yeah, Chair, it was. I took it down. But
Okay.
perhaps as Mr. Murat is coming in, for me, I guess perhaps you can also answer the question whether what we are doing is this not administrative action? Whatever decision we are being asked to take, is it not administrative action?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mr. Morati, can you come in?
Thank you, Chairperson. And probably let me start by conceding to the remarks made by members Zwanda and Madam Maseti, in that the powers relating to tariffing, it's one of those fundamental powers that Section 3, 4, and 15 of the Electricity Regulation Act empowers NERSA or the energy regulator to dispense with, and dispensing with it would require either approval or rejection of such. And once that power has been exercised, it becomes an administrative action. And these are the issues that from the discussion as a team and from the legal side, we identified the jurisdictional issue to say it's not a matter that either it's wrongly phrased by what ESCOM is submitting to the regulator, but we can only work with what we have received and bring it as an application. Therefore, the regulator will have to observe all the tenets relating to a valid administrative action. And that includes the procedural fairness, the means that has been adopted to deal with this issue. So we had this consensus that outside of the issues that ESCOM is raising, that this is the challenge that they have. What the regulator doesn't have a luxury on is to relate the business challenges of ESCOM and then overlook the application of the law in the decision making. And in that instance, the exposure of that decision for lacking the satisfaction of the legal requirements to make it a valid decision then kicks in. These are the issues that when we listed it, we touched on the issue that if also there's a deviation requested, there is the legality process follows the deviation as well. So in any part that the regulator would have to exercise to consider this application, it must be located within the jurisdictional fact and the mandate that the regulator has within the confines of the ERA, and that constitutionalism cannot be avoided. The issue that Mr. Sibanda raised in terms of the matter that kind of we side-swapped it in terms of that there are other matters like we were raising the issue to say if there is this challenge of the energy dumping by ESCOM that is coming out, one therefore would have expected that when you have some of the customers coming in of ESCOM to seek a relief that would enable them to continue to exist, ESCOM moved to place reliance on the applicability of Section 15.3, the policy position 14, and also the interim framework. But with this one, it's moving away from that. But the unfortunate part is there is no satisfaction that is given out in terms of why this exercise is not an exercise that should have been done within the realm of the 15.3 policy position 14 and the interim framework, how do we then derive a mandate as the regulator to deal with this issue outside of those two naturalities that are there, that is the approval of the tariff or is an approval of a deviation? How do we deal with this? And with the deviation, the law has created the circumstances and the means that must be utilized or observed in dealing with this issue. So these are the issues that we identified from the legal side, that we have a challenge that we cannot overlook without getting answers, and it carries an exposure that is real to the energy regulator. I would submit, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Morati. Look, the way going forward, let me start by saying I don't think that we should approve the recommendation as it stands today. I would say the number of, if I just look at the number of issues that the members have raised, I think those issues require probably a more time in terms of consideration by the team. It might even need a workshop, of the members, of the ELS. Look, I think this is this is not a normal run-of-the-mill situation you are dealing with. So I think that's probably why, we are coming up and asking all these questions. And also some of the questions, if I'm understanding Mr. Morat correctly, that every decision by NESA, is subject, obviously, becomes an administrative decision. And I was just looking here at the letter from ESCOM. It's very clear. It says that they are asking, it's a submission, from ESCOM to NESA to approve the tariff. So that's what it's saying. They are asking us to approve a tariff. And I note that Mr. Sibanda and the other members have questioned then, therefore, if it's noting for a tariff, whereas now when you look at the submission itself, it also says something else as well. So a bit of a disconnect. So I really think this matter, let us stand it down and take it back to the team. They've had the questions from the members, and then we'll hear from the team whether afterwards they are ready to come straight to the ELS, or maybe they will want a workshop that can be done outside. So, but for now, therefore, I'm going to ask the members now that we actually vote that for today, we stand down the matter, we do not approve it, we give it back to the team to consider everything that has been said, and then we'll hear from them whether they're gonna come for a workshop or come straight to the ELS. So by show of hands, members, if you are in support of what I'm suggesting as a recommendation. I do not see any hands.
Yeah, I support the recommendation that you stand the matter down and it be dealt with accordingly, and we come having just being all these matters being addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. I also see Madam Maseti.
From my side, Chairperson, the matter has been in this committee twice already, and there was a workshop. I think we need to be a subcommittee that takes decisions that will have a way forward. So I don't know if when the team is now going to be required to come back here, what is it that it needs to do? Are we saying that the team must follow? Because we need to be very clear. Are we saying the team must follow due process in terms of Section 10 before it brings the matter here? Because the matter is not properly before the subcommittee for a proper legally and procedural or what is it, legal or lawful, for a lawful decision to be made by the energy regulator because it did not follow Section 10. Are we saying so? And then also, they must look at the other issues to improve their consultation document. Is that what we are asking? I'm raising this to you, Chairperson, just to get clarity on the way forward by this committee, as opposed to saying that the team we're standing down, we're taking a decision that the matter will stand down. We must be very clear if the matter is not, firstly, it is not in compliance with Section 10 because there's no consultation. That's number one, and therefore it is not properly before the committee. That's the first thing, and therefore it goes back. The second thing is that even the nature of the decision sought before us is not a decision that is supported by the powers that we have in Section 4, read with the empowering provision of Section 15, and I think Section 14 is also important as well. So those for me are the two critical things, and then we can check other matters with regards to the issues raised, some of which were not responded to. Thank you, Chair.
I see Mr. Mkize.
Chairperson, you know that earlier on I raised my hand, and then when Mr. Sbandes finished talking, I then dropped my hand because he addressed the issues sufficiently, I think, to say that there are legalities here that need to be clarified, and they're not clarified. And it's simple that if it means from a division level to right back to if this is outside of our jurisdiction or it's a matter that we cannot be able to deal with, depending on what they find legally. That's what I'm saying, standing down from a point of view of addressing these legalities. Even Section 10 and other sections, they deal with legalities in terms of whether we empowered legally to deal with this matter and how we should deal with it in terms of procedure. Hence, I'm saying we're standing down from that point of view. And if it's going to be dealt with, it will be dealt with from that perspective. If it must be dispensed with at the level of division, then it be dispensed like that. I'm just saying this in the interest of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkize. I also saw the hand of Mr. Mategula.
Yeah, Chair, I thought I was not going to put it forward because you were closing, but I wanted to indicate that on the first instance, ESCOM wrote to us and said we must note their intention to have a pilot. And following what Ms. Maseti has indicated now, to say whenever we receive such a correspondence, we obviously look at what empowers us to have a say on what is being communicated to us. And on that letter that was received from ESCOM saying we must note, we then responded back to say, because you are referring to a tariff, we cannot note a tariff. A tariff, we have to approve it or reject it. That is where our powers actually lie. And that is what led to this application that we are having today. So the challenge with the application that we are sitting with today is that it is actually requesting the regulator to have in my understanding, to have a blank check, because they are saying they want to do a pilot with crypto miners and other customers. And it becomes difficult, therefore, for us to say to the regulator, approve, because who are we approving this application? Who's the customer? So that is the situation that we are at, because we don't know who the customer is, and that is why we found it difficult to come to the regulator and say approve this application. So maybe, Chair, what we should have done was to rather indicate to ESCOM that this is where the powers of the regulator lies, and if indeed you want the regulator to approve a tariff, you need to indicate what is that tariff and who is the customer that it's going to be the recipient of this tariff, and then we can deal with the issues of how will this impact the other customers and so forth. So maybe that is what we need to do, so that then we can bring before the regulator a submission that requests the regulator to consider a tariff which has a customer attached to it. So that then we can, because at this point it was difficult for us to want the regulator to approve a tariff which we do not know who the customer is in this instance. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Matebula. At this stage, then, I'm going to ask Mr. Sibanda to come in, but before asking Mr. Sibanda, let me just explain that after Mr. Sibanda, we need a decision by this meeting. So, Mr. Sibanda, after Mr. Sibanda, decision. Over to you, Mr. Sibanda.
Chair, quickly, the other thing that the team probably needs to look into is whether we can actually look into this application without a framework for such, because ESCOM does admit that deviating from standard tariffs requires a framework, and unlike NPAs that deal with existing existing businesses that are in distress, there is no similar framework for these types of of an application. So I guess that's the other thing that the team needs to look into. Can we deal with this without a proper framework designed to deal with these kinds of businesses? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Sibanda. So on that note, then, I'm asking us now to move towards a decision, and I'll try and phrase it. It might not be perfect, but I'm sure we'll all get the gist. I'm saying that we are standing the matter down, asking as a recommendation that we stand the matter down, we take it back to the team, and the team must consider everything that the members have raised. And then when they are ready, they can come back to the subcommittee, to the ELS. So with that, may I then ask the members by show of hands if they are in support of the recommendation as I've just explained it.
Chair, we have hands up. You might be muted.
Oh, apologies. Yeah, I was talking to, but I'm sure the Secretariat have noted all the hands that were up. So I was just saying I'm noting all the hands that were up. They've now disappeared, but I'm sure you've noted them. So
Correct, Chair. All members voted.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Mabunda. So on that note, then, it means we're now going to go on to the next item, which is item number 10. Mr. Matebula again.
Thanks, Chair. This is, Chair, a license application by a company called K25 370-442 Pty Ltd. Chair, Mr. Mkhize will take us through the details from when we received the application and the process we undertook, and also the recommendations, Chair. Thank you.
Yes, no, thank you very much, Mr. Matebula. And good afternoon, or rather good morning to the members and our fellow NESA colleagues, as well as those who are following us on various platforms. Chair, as Mr. Matebula has introduced, this is an application for a trading license by a company so-called K2025 370442. So the purpose of the submission, Chair, is to request the ELS to approve this license application. Chair, this application was received by the NERSA on the 17th of November 2025. And the sequence of events, Chair, is found on table 2 of the submission in terms of what has transpired from that date until today. But just to summarize, Chair, there were some extensive engagements that took place between NERSA and the applicant regarding the eligibility of the generator from which they are purchasing the electricity to be sold, particularly because this particular generator is behind the meter. So there were some discussions whether it does qualify, but it was also highlighted that Discovery Green's license was issued irregardless of the fact that it was also behind the meter. But Chair, these matters are dealt with in the trading rules, which talk about eligible generators. So it's very clear there what generators are eligible or not. So I believe that these matters will be properly dealt with in the rules. So, Chair, to continue, we take the matter as having been read, but we just want to highlight that K2025, just to shorten the name, has entered into a 5-year power purchase agreement with the Clark Fen Properties Limited, Pty Ltd, as a buyer of this capacity, which is about 146 megawatt hours of energy. This electricity, Chair, will be sold to a customer, which is indicated as there is a willing agreement involved in this trading activity, or rather there is no willing agreement involved. Chair, the customer is indicated in the submission. I just cannot locate it now. But just to understand that the power is being purchased from K2025, and then it's being sold to a customer, and there's no willing agreement in between the customer as well as the generator. So the power is being purchased on site, Chair. So K2025 did advertise in 2 local newspapers where the trading activity will be taking place. This was at Adrianse Public Library for a period of 30 days. So, Chair, the members of the public were invited to comment for a period of 30 days. Chair, during the advertisement period, no comments or objectives were received, except for ESCOM.
Mr. Mkhize, can I ask you in the interest of time? You did say that you will take the submission as read, and it was circulated to the members. So maybe let us just allow the members now, because they have read the submission, to go straight into any question they might have, because we still have other matters to attend to. So we're taking the matter, we are taking submission as read, and we're now going to allow the members to ask questions. So it's over to you, members, if you've got any questions for Mr. Mkhize. I do not see any hands from the members in terms of questions. So, Mr. Mkhize, can you read into the record the recommendations you are having, or that you are asking the committee to approve?
Yes, certainly, Chair. So in section 15 of the submission, We would like to request the electricity subcommittee to approve that K 2025-370-442 be issued with a trading license to trade in electricity subject to license conditions imposed. The draft license is attached as well as the RFD. We also would like the ELS to note the 5-year generator power purchase agreement between K 2025-370-442 and Clarkfern Properties 16, Chair. To also note the 5-year customer power purchase agreement between K 2025 and Clarkfern Properties 16 Limited. To also note the tariff in the customer power purchase agreement between K 2025 and Clarkfern Properties 16 Pty Ltd. To also note the tariff in the generator power purchase agreement between K 2025 and Clarkfern Properties. And lastly, Chair, to approve the decision and reasons for decision attached here too. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. With that, I'm now going to ask the members by show of hands if they are in support of the recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Sibanda. Thank you, Madam Sitole. Thank you, Madam Maseti. I'm also in support. So with that, we
You're
You are
muted,
muted,
Chairperson.
sorry?
You were muted, Chair. We were alerting you to that fact.
Oh, thank you. Oh, apologies. Second time I do this. I trust again that the Secretariat, you've noted all the hands who are in support for the recommendation. And so with that, we can now go on to the next item, which is number 11, again for Mr. Matebula. And Mr. Matebula, again, in the interest of time, can you do the presentation very quickly, bearing in mind that it has already been circulated to the members. So take it as read. Mr. Matebula, item number 11.
Chairperson, thank you very much. This item, Chair, it's for the temporary exemptions of the 2 wind farms as indicated to be exempted in compliance with clause 4 of the RPP code. So, Chair, as you indicated, to save time, I just want to ask Ms. Rahalakani just to talk on the most pertinent points, and let's allow the members, Chair, to raise their comments and points of enhancements. Ms. Rahalakani.
Thank you, Mr. Matebula, and good morning, Chairperson, the members of the Energy Regulator and fellow colleagues. So the submission is for a temporary exemptions that were submitted on behalf of Witbeck and Wolf Wind Farm. Just to indicate that in terms of the delegation matrix, the electricity subcommittee is delegated to approve applications for exemptions that are coming from the electricity supply industry. So from September last year, the GCAC received a few applications from a number of wind generators requesting exemption from clause 4 of the Renewable Power Plant Code. And clause 4 particularly deals with the definition of rated power. So these 2 wind farms believe that their facilities are compliant with the code. The only issue is the current interpretation of rated power by the system operator, or the method that is used to determine rated power for these facilities. So I will move to what the GCAC has recommended in terms of these applications, and then move to the recommendations of the recommendations in the submission, just in the interest of time. But the main thing that we wanted to highlight is that the current method that is used by the system operator in assessing rated power, determining it, it takes into account site conditions where the plant will be operated. And this is mainly wind speed, ambient temperature, and altitude. But the applicants, they argue that the temperature interpretation does not align with, the current interpretation does not align with best practice and leads to unnecessary permanent derating derating of the plants. So the GCC resolved to not recommend these exemptions for approval by the energy regulator, or rather the GCC recommended non-approval of these exemptions and highlighted that the definition of rated power has formed part of the renewable power plant code since inception, and a significant number of RPPs have successfully achieved compliance with the rated power requirement previously, including plants from the same OEM that is currently supplying Wolf Wind Farm and Whitbeck wind power. So, and the GCC also highlighted that the purpose of an exemption is to allow a non-complying licensee a defined period to achieve compliance. However, with regards to this particular exemption, the motivation in this instance was not to seek to achieve compliance, but to seek amendments to the code. So other reasons are stipulated under section 7.7 of the submission. While the exemption is not supported since the RPPs believe that they are compliant with the code, it's the view of the team that the RPPs, together with other industry participants, should be given an opportunity to engage with the system operator and NSPs to try and find alignment on the method of assessment of rated power. And if the current definition of rated power is ambiguous, then amendment proposals be submitted through the GCC process for consideration by the energy regulator. I'll go straight to the recommendations, which are on page 15. It is recommended that the electricity subcommittee not approve the temporary exemptions for Wolf Wind Farm and Whitbeck Wind Power from compliance with clause 4 of the Renewable Power Plant Code, but approve that the conditional operational waiver be granted to Wolf Wind Farm and Whitbeck Wind Power, enabling them to connect and operate at their original equipment manufacturer rated power without derating. This approval is subject to the following conditions. The waiver is valid for a maximum of 12 months from commercial operation date or until the dispute regarding the interpretation of rated power is resolved through the prescribed grid code amendment or dispute resolution process, whichever occurs first. That the waiver applies only to the specific issue of rated power determination as it relates to the ambient temperature and turbine derating at these two plants. All other grid code requirements must be fully complied with, and the waiver does not constitute a precedent for other plants or future projects. Both plants must provide monthly operational data to NERSA and the system operator, demonstrating actual power output at the point of connection, including periods of derating and the corresponding ambient temperatures. Any incidents or operational issues arising from operating at the OEM rated power must be reported immediately. The plants must actively participate in the industry consultation process via the GCC or an industry expert team to resolve the rated power definition dispute. If the process results in a new or clarified grid code requirement, the plant must comply immediately upon its adoption, even if this occurs before the 12-month period ends. The waiver is granted on a non-precedential exceptional basis due to the ongoing industry-wide dispute and is not an admission of compliance or non-compliance with the current grid code. Should it be determined that the plants were non-compliant during the waiver period, any contractual or regulatory consequences will be addressed in accordance with the final resolution of the dispute. Thank you, Chairperson.
I'm going to ask members now by show of hands if they've got any questions or enhancements. I do not see any hands, so I'm going to ask the members by show of hands if they're in support of the recommendation Thank you, Mr. Mkize. Advocate Sitole, Mr. Sibanda, and myself also in support. Thank
Chair, you are muted again.
So yeah, apologies. I see we are now exceeded our contracted time, but can I ask the members to that we continue maybe for another 15 minutes? Hopefully, we'll be able to finish everything in the remaining time. So on that note, then can I ask that you go to item number 12?
Yeah, Chairperson, the next three items are for noting, and item 12, it's feedback on the progress report. Chair on Samanco Chrome, talking to the 6-year NPA, and I'll ask Ms. Matlow just to talk to the silent points, and we can note the submission, Chair. Thanks.
Okay, good afternoon, Chairperson, members and colleagues. I'll take the matter as read due to time. In 26 October 2023, NESA approved ESCOM a 6-year NPA with Samanco for each of its 6 ferrochrome smelters operations in Mpumalanga, Limpopo, and Northwest. And as part of its decision, the energy regulator required ESCOM to submit a progress report 6 months after the effective date to monitor the implementation of the agreement and to ensure whether the intended objectives are achieved. And then in late 2024, there was a change in market conditions. However, NESA approved a take-or-pay waiver for the period of 6 months. And then within that period of 6 months, and then NESA approved a temporary price relief tariff in January. And thereafter now, yeah, the temporary price relief in January, and then the monitoring report presented today for the period 1 July to 31 December 2025. It reflects the period during which the Samanco was under take-or-pay waiver was implemented. On table 1, page 4 of the submission, is a comparison between the planned performance and the actual performance for the reporting period. With regards to the NPA tariff was escalated in accordance with the decision of the energy regulator. The electricity consumption was reduced as a result of adverse market conditions affecting the ferrochrome industry. Interruptibility performance declined due to lower average megawatt response due to certain furnaces being taken offline for extended plane maintenance as a result of hardship. And the implementation of the take-or-pay waiver contributed to sustaining direct and indirect employment with Samanco ferrochrome operations despite the challenging market conditions. The recommendations are as follows. It is recommended that the Electricity Subcommittee knows the progress report on the implementation of ESCOM 6-year NPA with Samanco Chrome Limited for each of its 6 ferrochrome smelter operations in Mpumalanga, Limpopo, and Northwest for the period 1 July to 31 December 2025. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, ma'am. So I'm going to ask the members now if they've got any questions or enhancements by show of hands.
You are muted again, Chair.
Yeah, I see Mr. Sibanda. Your hand is up.
Yes, Chair. Thank you to the team. Chair, I'm happy to note the report, but I think we can improve on the reporting. And I think my comments would apply to the next one as well, or to the next reports. So I'm on table 1 on page 4 of 66. So you have the assessment criteria, plan performance, actual performance, and then our comments and analysis. Right. So if I take the first criterion, for instance, average tariff to be charged by ESCOM, then you've got the planned performance, which is the tariff rate escalated by PPI. and an adjustment factor. And then you go to our comments, or rather perhaps the actual performance. We have the tariff that was charged. But then our comments then say that there was an escalation of 2%, that comprises a PPI of 1% and an adjustment factor of 1%. So in your plan performance, you don't tell us what the adjustment factor was. So you simply report after the fact, because your actual performance should match, or rather should report against your plan performance. So you should tell us what the measurements were under plan performance before you can actually then report on the actual performance and your analysis. So what I'm missing there under plan performance is what the adjustment factor was supposed to be. So you're telling me that they adjusted it by 1%, but is that what was planned or not? The second one, actual energy consumed. So again, you've got your planned performance, then your actual performance. Under planned performance, they're supposed to do a minimum consumption payment based on 70% load factor, right? Then you have your actual performance that tells us the gigawatt hours that were consumed. But again, you're not giving me a sense of whether this met the 70% load factor or not. I know perhaps you want to do this at the end of the whole period, but it's not informative if you do it after 6 years. It's not informative. I would like to know under the reporting period, did they meet the 70% load factor or not? And then on the next page, under socioeconomic impact, it's just a question really. When we report on these things, the number of, I can understand the direct jobs, but the number of indirect jobs, how do we verify that? How do we measure that? Or do we simply take their word on that? Which brings me to my last question: where is the actual report by the licensee? Because they're supposed to submit a report every 6 months. Where is that report? Apart from the analysis, perhaps the extraction that you've taken from those reports, I would love to see the actual report from the licensee. I'll stop here, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Sibanda, and then Mr. Mkize.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think from my side, just very much covered by Mr. Sibanda. I also would like to state that we need to really separate what were provided by the licensee and then or the smelter in this case, the beneficiary, and then how then we're assessing it from our side, and if there are other tools of verification of the information that we've been provided, noting that in some instances would not have that, but maybe work towards having that form of verification. Also think that when it comes to the criteria, we need to also to look at other issues that keep being raised to include in the criteria, for example, the impact on standard tariff customers. We need to reflect also on that in presenting. I think the rest has been covered by Mr. Sibanda. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, members. So can I ask the team to respond? Oh, I see, Mr. Sibanda, your hand is still up.
Yeah, apologies, Chair. One last thing quickly. What's going to be very important, I think, for me when we get these reports is to have a sense of whether the business is on its way to be weaned off of this particular tariff, because this is not supposed to be a permanent thing. So what we should also be assessing is whether are they on their way to recovery? Are they on their way to be weaned off of this particular tariff? And I don't see that in our assessment. I think it's going to be very key for all these applications. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Say. And then I see Madam Makubane.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to probably start, and then the team will come in. I wanted to start on Mrs. Amanda's comments around improving our table 1, which is very valid, so that we from the table it becomes clear whether they've achieved or they've underachieved. I think probably we'll go as far as to where we have an annual target. Maybe we can indicatively break it in half, so that we have an indication whether they're on the right track, whether it's a load factor issue or whatever is the target, that we can just give an indication of whether they are making progress. I think that is a welcomed enhancement of how we report, and certainly fair. And then in terms of the socioeconomic impact, I just wanted to highlight that Annexure B, if I'm just going through the attachment, Annexure B does contain the report itself. But Mr. Sibanda can just maybe just a double check on that one, but colleagues will correct me. Yeah, maybe I can cover those for now, and then I'll let Ms. Mutlo add. Thanks.
Okay, with the rest of the other questions, I'll start with the other question by Mr. Sibanda on with regards to whether the 70% load factor is met or not. As I mentioned in my presentation, to say for this monitoring period, it was the period during which the take-or-pay was implemented. However, it was not met because, but they are covered under the take-or-pay, because with the take-or-pay, it protects the company against penalty for reduced consumption. And this take-or-pay, the reason it was implemented is because it was a change due to change in market conditions for the ferrochrome industry. And then another questions around the sense of whether the business are on the way of the recovery. I think due to change in market conditions, NESA has approved a tariff in May of 62 cents per kilowatts, of which the smelters indicated that they will be able to participate competitively in the international market. We are hoping that as soon as the market recovers, then all will be well on their side. Yeah. And then the other issues are raised by Mr. Mukrise to say we need to look at criteria, to look at other issues. We'll look at that, and also we will also include the impact on standard other customers when we do the other report. And the questions that I missed, my other colleagues can assist if there are any. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I don't see any hands from. Okay, yes, Madam Makubane. Can we, all right, come through, Madam Makubane?
Okay, just to indicate that from a verification of the indirect jobs, I think we must admit that we do receive the information from ESCOM based on what the customer provides, and we haven't had a method of really looking into whether we can confirm that. I think we'll have to look into ways to do that if possible. And we will consider that in the next report. But typically, we do just receive the information and report it. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Dr. Makubane and the rest of the team. So may I now check with the members if they've got any further questions, follow-ups, members? I do not see any hands. The recommendation has already been read into the record. So can I check with the members by show of hands if they are in support of the recommendation? Thank you, Mr. Mkize. Mr. Sibanda, Advocate Sichole, myself, I'm also in support.
You are muted, Chair.
Hope so. So we're now going to go to the next item, which is item number 13. Mr. Matebula.
Yeah, Chairperson, Ms. Matlow is going to talk.
Can I ask we do this here? Let's really be serious. We're saying we take it as read. So just read us the recommendation, and then the members will ask questions because they have read the submission. So go straight to the recommendation, Mr. Matebula.
Thank you, Chairperson. So, Chair, yes, it is read, but just for the records, this is the 6 months progress report on the implementation of the ESCOM 6-year negotiated price agreement with TransAlloy, Malahleni in Mpumalanga for the period 1st October 2025 to 31 March 2026. So, Chair, it is here for noting. And the recommendations, Chair, as is indicated under page 13 of 50. The recommendation is that the Electricity Subcommittee notes the progress report on the implementation of ESCOM's 6-year NPA with TransAlloys for the period 1st October 2025 to 31 March 2026. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Matebula. I'm now going to open it up to the members if they've got questions or points of enhancements. By show of hands, members. Thank you, Mr.
For me, Chairperson, is the same issues as raised previously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkize. And then Madam Maseti. Yeah. Oh, I see. Okay, I don't see any other hands. So, Mr. Mkize, oh, I see Mr. Sibanda. Mr. Sibanda, come through.
Sorry, Chair, I thought we were voting. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, apologies. All right, let us vote then. The comments that were made in the previous ones still apply by voting, I see. Thank you. I saw Advocate Sichole and Mr. Mkize and Mr. Sibanda and also myself. Thank you. And Madam Maseti. Thank you. On that note, then we are going to go to the next item, item number 14. Also, Mr. Matebula, if you can just tell us what's the purpose and then go to the recommendation.
Yeah. Indeed, Chair. This is the 6 months progress report on the implementation of ESCOM's 6-year negotiated pricing agreement with Glencore Merafe Chrome Venture for each of its 4 ferrochrome smelter operations in Mpumalanga, Limpopo, and Northwest for the period 1st July 2025 up until the 31st of July 2025. So, Chair, the recommendation is to request the subcommittee to note the progress report on the implementation of the ESCOM 6-year NPA with Glencore Merafe Chrome Venture for each of its 4 ferrochrome smelter operations in Mpumalanga, Limpopo, and Northwest for the period 1st July 2025 to 31st December 2025. And Chair, I must indicate that the comments that were made by members on the previous report will be considered, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Matebula. On that note, I'm going to ask the members to raise their hands if they've got questions or enhancements. I do not see any hands. So I'm now going to ask the members by show of hands if they are in support voting for the recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Mkize. Thank you, Advocate Sitole. Thank you, Madam Maseti. Thank you, Mr. Sibanda, and myself. I'm also in support. So on that note, then, we've come to the end of the open session, which involves the members of the public. So I am therefore going to take this opportunity to thank all the members of the public that joined us in the various streaming platforms. Your attendance is highly appreciated. So I'm